What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. 505 Speeds here. Just wanted to give you guys the full story on that unfortunate situation that happened to me last week. I wanted to make this video for you guys just to give you some insight on how this whole process works, and I don't want it to happen to you or anybody else. Let me show you a clip. Initially, I was furious, I was pissed off, and it took me about an hour or two to finally calm down, because that is no way to treat someone's property. For those of you unfamiliar, I just moved across the country from California to northern Florida. Now I had to find a way to get my cars transported out here. So I learned a lot from this experience, but if you're looking to get your cars transported from one state to another, just know that 90% of the companies are brokers. So you have to deal with two people. So you call the broker, you say, I need this car transported at this date from here to here. And what they'll do is they'll search for a truck that's in your area at that time, at that date. So they can fill up a truck and they can take as much cars as they can and make the most money that they can in one trip. And it's kind of like rolling the dice. You never know what you're going to get, what kind of driver you're going to get. So even though a company has, 5-star reviews, does not mean that that day you'll get a driver that unfortunately was the same driver that I got and did not treat my cars with any respect or any type of professionalism that I was expecting from a 5-star company. That being said, the broker is not responsible for any damage or anything, which I can agree with, but at the same time, they need to have a standard of the drivers that they choose to transport the vehicles, because I don't know how they got this guy on their list of drivers with a 5-star company. They told me, oh, we've never had this experience with that driver before. And I'm like, yeah, that's bullshit. What I get from this, what I think they do, is they have different drivers that say, hey, I'll take this load for $1,000, or I'll take this load for $2,000. So if they can get the $1,000 guy to take the cars, then they're going to make more money versus, getting the guy that charges more. So that's what I think happened to me. I think they gave me the cheap guy and I thought they would get away with it. So from the date that you want them to pick up your cars, they offer a 1 to 3 business day window. So if I put my car to pick up on Tuesday, they'll pick it up, Friday at the latest. So they just have to call the driver, make sure you're going to be around, and kind of work that out. So he came on the second day, I believe, around noon. He texted me the day before and he said, hey, let me know, a couple quiet streets you can pull on. He showed up, he called me when he was there. I pulled the Cobra out first and met him. He was an older guy, he was probably in his 70s. And he was bragging a little bit. Like, I was like, yeah, how often do you do this? And he was like, oh man, I've done 1 million cars my whole life. This is nothing. And he was complaining about how cars are bigger nowadays than they were. And that was pretty much it. The guy seemed cool. And once he got in my car and started driving it up his truck, that's when things turned to the worst. So the Cobra went on first. He started driving it all the way up. I think he was going to put it on the second level. He got about 3/4 of the way up and he kind of got stuck. I think he was trying to get over this little hump and he couldn't make over the hump. So he started reversing, just slowly going backwards down the ramps. And I noticed that he was kind of going sideways, like he was veering off to the left-hand side of the truck. And I was like, hey dude, like, you see that, right? Like, you're kind of sliding off. And he was like ignoring me, like he's done this a million times. So I was like, okay. And it got to a point where I was like, dude, half the tire was on the ramp, half the tire was off the ramp, and I knew that it was about to get bad. That's when I started taking pictures and videos. I knew right then and there, I was like, there's no way this guy's not getting away with paying me for any possible damages that are about to occur or have just occurred. So I'm sitting there watching this guy get on my car with half of the car slid off the ramps. It's now the gas tank and frame rails are rubbing on where the tire should be on the ramp. And my blood pressure spiking. I'm getting real pissed off because I'm like, what is this guy doing? And he gets out the car and he says, don't you hate it when that happens? And I'm like, what? So he's sitting there twiddling his thumbs, and I'm like, man, I'm gonna have to get into this and help this guy because obviously he doesn't know what he's doing. He's too old, and he kind of got himself into a sticky situation. So luckily, Pam's dad was there. I walked over to my house. It was probably about a block away from where he parked. I grab a bunch of pieces of wood, my jack, bring it all the way back over to the truck, and I'm pretty much ignoring the guy at this point. I'm talking to Sergio, Pam's dad, and we're kind of figuring out how the hell we can get this thing off the ramp, you know, and back on the ground safely. So we were out there for about an hour, and we finally get it on the ground. I'm driving the car at this point because that dude is not, that was the last time he got in my car. There's no way he's gonna get back into my car. We get it down safely back onto the ground, and I straight up tell the dude, like, I can't trust you with my cars. You're not taking my cars.
Hey bro, I'm gonna have somebody else pick up my cars.
You want to take?
I don't trust you. I don't
You
trust
don't
you.
trust me?
After what happened, so
All right, that's fine with
yeah,
me.
it's wasting my fucking.
That's it. So took him back in, and that was that. I called the company. I said, this is what happened to me. And right off the bat, they were on the driver's side. They were telling me, oh, there's no damage to your vehicle. He took pictures. And I'm like, did you not just see the email I sent you? I sent him an email of the damages on the underside of the Cobra. And they were like kind of speechless for a second and ended that conversation because they weren't going to help me. So I had two options. That was either to get insurance involved or contact the driver and see if we can work something out. About 30 minutes after it happened, the driver was calling me, and I didn't answer. I mean, I'm at this point, I had no patience for the guy. I was done with him. Did not want to speak to him at all. He left me a voicemail, and he's like, oh, I can come pick up your cars. You know, I'll still be in the area. I'll give you a good deal. And I'm like, does this guy not get it? Like, there's no way you're touching my cars ever again. No way. You've proved that you cannot handle my cars in a professional manner. He never even apologized. Imagine that. Very careless. Imagine if I wasn't there with him loading the cars, he probably would have just drove it right off the ramps and tried again and went back up with the trailer. Ridiculous. So as far as the damage is concerned, guys, it's not too bad. I'll throw up some pictures of it so you can see it. There's a big scratch on the gas tank cover, which I took some time to sand and paint and make it look pretty nice, but that got a little ruined. My control arms, they have a little scratching on them. The subframe connectors have a bit of scratching, and the actual subframe of the IRS has some scratches. Muffler has some scratches. I mean, these aren't damages that's gonna affect the drivability of the car, but you know, as far as just changing out the control arms just to get rid of the scratches, I mean, it doesn't really seem worth it. So it kind of sucks that it's just got to be there for now. So I'm not too pissed about the damages. It's just the fact that the guy didn't care when he handled my cars. and there is no way I was gonna let him touch my coupe because that car is way cleaner than my Cobra. The Cobra is kind of a rescue car. It does need some work underneath. So that's kind of why I gave it to him first. I mean, I feel like in the back of my mind, I was like, all right, let's test this guy out with the car that's not in the best shape so he doesn't ruin my nice car. I'm not too, like I said, I'm not too mad about the damage. It's just the fact that the guy didn't care is what really ticks me off, because he's going to go out to the next guy and do the same thing and get away with it, and it's just not right. So at this point, I messaged the driver and I said, hey, there's two ways we can handle this. I can go through insurance, or I can go to a mechanic, have them inspect my vehicle for the damage that you caused, and you can pay out of pocket. So after he left, we ate some lunch, I cooled off a little bit. I went back, I jacked up the car, and I took some pictures, wrote up an invoice, and I charged him for the labor for inspecting everything, labor for swapping out my gas tank cover, because that can be swapped out. I also still need to take a look at my fuel tank. He might have dented my fuel tank, but the car runs fine, so I don't think there's any issues there. And within 5 minutes of me sending that over to him, he paid it and we were done. So we got that resolved, and he paid for the damages. So we're all square there. Now my second driver, he was super cool. He was actually a Mustang owner himself. He understood my situation. He was professional and was like, I asked him, I had to be that guy. I had to ask him, can you drive stick? You know, do you have experience? I don't, you know, these questions should not be asked from a professional truck driver. He looked at me like I had 6 heads, and he's like, yeah, of course. I mean, how else would I be able to drive your cars? So that was awesome. That the second guy exceeded my expectation, and he was super cool. So that all went smooth. Another big issue was timing. Now we're driving across the country. Okay, we need to leave at this day because we're checking into this hotel on this day, and then we're gonna drive over here and check in to this hotel, and that threw off our whole schedule. So not only did he cause damage, which he paid for, I'm not gonna get the money back from the hotel that we missed because we had already booked it, we couldn't cancel. So we lost some money there, but it just screwed up the whole timeline. And just stay away from drivers like that. Some of you may be asking, why don't you just drive your cars cross country? Well, for one, the Cobra is on E85. Don't believe there's enough E85 stations in order for you to make it across country. And in order to change from E85 to gas, you normally need to change the injectors because the injectors are bigger. I went with 80-pound injectors, so if I were to switch to gas, it probably would be a little too big, and the car would probably run a lot richer than I wanted it to. And as far as the coupe goes, if you're unfamiliar, I did a Coyote swap and also an S550 interior swap. So I basically took like a 2015 Mustang and transported it into a Fox body. So if you're interested in that build, go check out my other videos. I got pretty much a whole build series on what I had to do to fit most of that stuff in there. But that car, I was really rushing to get finished. I mean, it's not finished, but to get it mobile, to get it, you know, turnkey, to start it and it'll drive onto a trailer. That was my goal. I almost ran out of time, so it was a really time crunch to get that done, but I got it done. So if you're trying to do this, yes, it'd probably be easier to drive your car across country. As far as timing is concerned, I don't think I will be dealing with an auto transport company in the future, unless it's somebody that I know personally that has a truck on their own and they have their own business. I tried asking for my driver's business card because of the job he did, and I trusted him, but he works for a company. They provide a truck, he drives the truck, he's just a driver, he doesn't have his own truck. He said, I used to have my own truck and it's just too much of insurance and all that, so I don't think I'll be able to use him again. But if you guys find a good company definitely hold on to them, and it's priceless to have. There's also the option of a company called Reliable Carriers. They are indoor auto transport. They look very professional from the reviews and from what I've read and seen. I've actually seen their trucks on the road. They look super clean and nice. The first driver I got, his truck looked like it was from 1950, like the first auto transport ever made and never maintained and anything. So if you're willing to pay double the price, then go with Reliable Carriers. I could not justify that at the time, but in hindsight, probably would have been worth it, but it is a lot of money. So keep that in mind. Well, that's the story, guys. Hopefully I didn't bore you, but drop a comment. Let me know what you think. If you're in the northern Florida area, give me a shout. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.